Hello, Facebook. I'm Evan Dashevsky, features editor with PCMag.com. Welcome to the Convo. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about wearable technology. Now, when most people think about wearables, they probably think of modern consumer items like Fitbits or the Apple Watch, but there's actually a lot more to the story, a lot more that's going on right now. Okay, so things like smart fabrics, sensors, and even whole body systems don't only provide feedback on human activity, but they actually help fully capable humans move even better. Okay, these technologies have the promise to help those suffering from injury and disease, but they might also give humans superhuman capabilities. And I'll ask my guest if that's too much of an oversell. Today's guest is a functional apparel designer with Harvard University's Wyss Institute for Biologically Inspired Engineering, where she's part of a DARPA-funded project developing a soft exosuit, which you can see over there, to augment human walking. Dani Ryan, welcome to the Convo.
Thanks. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, for those of you at home, the show is called The Convo, not The Dialogue. So if you have any questions about wearables, fashion, or about where this is all going, drop them in the comments, and Social Pete will read them throughout the show. If you're listening, if you're watching this afterwards or listening to the podcast and you still have a question, tough luck. Okay, so let's start off just with the basics. What is a functional apparel designer?
Yes. So functional apparel designers, we're kind of at the intersection of science and apparel. Mm-hmm. It's very niche.
Yeah.
So more or less, I studied fashion design at Pratt Institute, which is a fantastic school in Brooklyn, New
Pratt.
York.
Yeah.
Used to be an engineering school, but
is that true?
Yes.
Yeah.
Up until I think the 80s.
Okay.
And then transformed into kind of one of the leaders in design, especially like architecture, fashion, interior design, etc. Started my work in industry, working in activewear companies. I was at Reebok and New Balance doing design. At Reebok, I designed everything from like bras to outerwear.
Okay.
The really highly technical stuff, I think, is what drew me to moving in this direction.
Okay.
Then went to New Balance and was doing kind of really interesting work on the Heidi Klum for New Balance collection.
Okay.
So that was a lot of fun. But growing up, I had a lot of exposure to science, a lot of family members who were engineers and stuff, and some classes in school that really propelled me kind of in this direction. So.
Okay, well, let's talk about some of the projects you're working on now at the Wyss Institute. Okay, so you're designing a soft exoskeleton with help from DARPA, or funding from DARPA.
Yep.
We'll show a clip of actually what they're working on now, but we actually have some parts here. So let's get, what is the goal of the project that you're working on right now?
Yep. So the Warrior Web project, I think, started Warrior Web.
Okay.
Started about 5 years ago. So I've been on the project for about a year and a half.
Okay.
And the full suit version actually is just wrapping up. But we're continuing some other work through the end of the year with running, which maybe will come up later. And the goal of the project is, in the military, obviously, a lot of soldiers carry heavy load. They have to walk many miles in crazy conditions. So I guess DARPA is very forward-thinking and innovative. Yeah. So I guess they were thinking, can we design some kind of augmentation system? That
super soldiers.
Yeah, super soldiers. System soldiers can wear so that it reduces the burden of carrying a lot of weight on a long distance.
And it can also, I mean, these actually use pulleys, as I understand it, that it can actually make you step farther and do things better. Would that be correct? Can we jump farther yet? Yeah.
There are some properties of how it's designed that potentially could have that effect on different people. One thing we've learned a lot since it started is that each person's kinematics is going to have a big effect on whether or not those things are true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So. Facebook, you have a question.
So it sounds like this suit is meant for someone who's already able-bodied. What about someone who has a disability?
Yeah, so the other project I'm actually working on and have as well for a little less, maybe a year, we call it Midexo in the lab, but it's a medical exosuit that's developed to help people who have had a stroke.
Okay.
So typically people who have had a stroke on one side of their body, their paretic side, they will have symptoms such as drop foot, where when they're walking, they might start tripping. They can't push off during their gait cycle as well as a healthy person might. So that system is only applied to the calf, and that one basically helps restore healthier kinematics to someone who's had a stroke. And that one is actually about a year ago was licensed by a robotics company called
cool.
Rewalk.
Okay.
They're based in Israel. And so we've been working with them for the past year, and they just announced, I think, this week, maybe last week, they've just gone public with the exact suit. And
specifically for stroke victims.
Yep, and so we're hoping to have it within clinics within the next couple years.
Oh, very cool. It's it's battery powered, right?
Yep.
Yep. So then it's so you have to wear like a battery pack on your back, sort of thing. I mean,
Yeah.
this will get smaller and smaller over time, I imagine. But
Well, Moore's law, one would hope.
and actually, we're going to show a quick clip of the suit in action. Okay, so that's kind of cool. So let's maybe go over about what we were seeing there. Is that the person wearing things similar to this, kind of like a multi-part system. There's actually, I guess, do you call these pulleys or?
Oh no, the pulley is more of how, like, for example, this is kind of hidden, but this strap can move side to side.
Okay.
It's a little bit subtle.
Yeah.
Probably not visible from there.
Yeah.
But basically, the way this would work, and you can see in this photo.
Yeah, we can go over here.
This is an older version, and the initial suits, I think we've been through 9 iterations over the last 5 years. And initially, they were made out of webbing, which is very heavy.
Okay.
So we've started moving to these other textiles. And then there's usually a part on the waist. I didn't bring that today, but this is much cooler, so I thought I would talk about it. And you'll see this kind of goes down the thigh to the back of the calf.
Kind of like a natural tendon, almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or kind of like a muscle.
Right.
Like in the same way that a muscle would go. And what we do is we apply quite a bit of force at the person where they plantar flex, which is just, I don't know, that motion. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
But for push off when you're walking.
So that's when it's connected here to the heel that
Yep.
you're talking about.
So basically,
move back over here.
Sorry.
Do. Okay.
there's kind of a connection from the back of the calf to a boot, and that comes together. That point comes together. We pull quite a bit here because through our experiments, we've shown that the higher you pull, the more you're going to help someone walk, which kind of makes sense. So we came up with this strap as a way to distribute half of that force from the waist. So we anchor this part at the hip, and the other part is anchored to the calf.
Okay, so there's a lot of there's a lot of different fields coming together. There's physiology, there's fabrics, and there's mechanical parts all kind of coming together. Okay, and then now, so each time it pulls, what triggers it to pull? Is it the bend of the knee, and then it kind of reinforces that movement?
Yep. Yeah. So I don't work on controls, but I'll do my best.
Sure.
We typically, these are just suit components we have here, so they don't have any of the sensors integrated in them, which normally would be there during testing. But we do have IMUs we normally put in, which is similar to what's kind of in a Fitbit or whatever.
Gotcha.
It measures movement. We also have load cells. So with the IMUs, our controls team, they can work on algorithms that detect, your leg is in a certain position or things like that when you're walking, and that will tell it when to trigger.
Okay.
Then a load cell is simply, those kind of get hidden back here.
Okay.
And that's kind of how the cables pull and how the system knows how much force you're placing on the person.
Gotcha.
So that's not only good to measure how much of an effect you might have, but also to make sure you're not injuring people.
Okay.
So if their threshold is 500 newtons, you wouldn't.
Right.
You want to make sure your algorithm is always don't go above that. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Facebook, you have a question.
When you're talking about the exoskeletons for soldiers, are there certain specs it has to meet in terms of durability or the longevity?
Yeah, so there are ISO standards and ASTM, but we aren't there yet because this is still in the prototype phase. Typically with DARPA, it's very early stage. Even though these goods look very finished and the suit itself looks pretty cool.
Thanks to you.
Basically, we aren't at a point where we need to think too much about does this all need to be super waterproof?
Yeah.
So we do pretty intense testing with the military periodically, and at that point we want to make sure, can we go on these marches where people are trying it out and it's not going to just break and fall apart and fall off. But in terms of like very intense standards, we're not there yet.
Well, I mean, I imagine you've worn this suit at one time. Like, what does it feel like to wear it?
Yeah. So I might be biased, but I think it's fairly comfortable. So it's basically a base layer that feels kind of like a bike short if you've worn that. We also have a long version that feels very similar to just running leggings you'd wear to the gym or whatever. And we have kind of a high friction material in here. That's probably the weirdest part.
But to feel the actual, like the pull.
Like the pulling. Yeah. It feels a little bit, it's like a weird massage. I don't know how, like, and up to a certain...
Our soldiers need massages, guys, you know,
As long as it's doing other things, we're good.
Yeah.
So I guess it kind of depends on the force level. If we tell it to do 200 newtons, that's going to feel much less intense than 500, where, you know, but if you're a soldier with giant calf muscles, it's, you know, they're usually like, this is pretty cool, you know, it's not too bad, so.
We've seen some exoskeletons and just like other prototypes. I think it was Bezos. He not so long ago went on stage in the giant kind of like the alien sort of, you know,
the top
exosuit.
Secret.
Yeah.
I remember that headline.
Yeah. And then I don't know, like, are you guys working on like the hard exoskeletons for like, I don't know, for battle bots or for just like working stuff in warehouses?
So actually, one of the like key things our lab has that other labs don't, or like our focus is actually soft robotics. So we don't work on things like that, and so when we specifically talk about our suit, it is definitely to more so help augment as opposed to replace functionality. So something like that, you know, if you never go to the gym and you're like, oh, I just want to lift 200 pounds, like yes, it will help you do that because it's rigid, it's relying on the materials. But with our suit, we don't work on stuff like that specifically.
Gotcha. Facebook, you have a question.
What are some of the challenges you face when designing soft wearable textiles?
Ooh, that is such a juicy question.
Go for it.
So I think the biggest things are, you can imagine when you're applying forces to someone, humans are awesome, but they're also squishy and sweaty, and you know, things don't want to stay. So I think one of the biggest challenges is you want to figure out how to apply these torques in a safe way without having components slide down the body after a long period of time. You want to make sure they're comfortable over a long period of time, so you don't want to have pressure points, you don't want to have Velcro rubbing the skin. And then I think the biggest challenge, just because we're talking about two very different populations, is just fitting a lot of people.
Right.
So I've seen this on a lot of people. We're doing a really good job so far. It's not perfect, but I think that's a big challenge for kind of any wearable industry, you know, with the exception of like, there aren't too many wrist sizes if you're wearing a watch. But with things like braces or, it's tough. So,
Facebook, you have a question.
Are all the parts custom made, or are there any like off-the-shelf components?
In terms of the textiles, in general with the system, we do have off-the-shelf components simply because a lot of things just take forever to design from scratch and make. In terms of textiles, we did design one material on our own that we use quite a bit in the current suit, and then a lot of the other items we kind of either developed over the 5-year program, or we do use a few off-the-shelf things. Like most people who put it on love BOA. This is not an advertisement, but it's a fantastic ratcheting system that allows us to add a ton of the adjustability that helps a lot with the fit issue I was talking about, and also helps us like reduce the number of sizes we need to have. So there definitely is like a combo of off the shelf and custom.
Right. Now, can you talk about like what the future goals of the project are, or is that top secret?
Well, I think so with the full suit, which is the one you see here, which assists both the hip and the ankle joint. That one just wrapped up.
Okay.
So that's kind of out of our hands.
Okay.
And we just are, you know, happy with all the progress we made, and like working with DARPA has been awesome. So I'm not sure what will come next for that. We're still working on the hip system, which we did just have that article come out with a 5.4% reduction for running.
Okay.
So running work is really exciting. Not a lot of people are doing that yet. And then in terms of our lab, like with wearable exosuit or exosuit technologies, there's like the medical one with Rewalk, not only focusing on stroke, but MS. And then I think, there's a lot of potential in many areas, like other disabled populations. There's industrial applications. There could be commercial. So,
very cool.
Yeah.
Facebook, you have a question.
Could this technology replace walkers or other conventional implements?
That's a really good question.
Yeah. I mean, there's are probably all different reasons that someone would need a walker.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's tricky to say. I think it kind of depends on the ailment that led to the walker. So a good example is if someone has drop foot, which can be very dangerous, which is more or less when you walk, you can't lift your feet like healthy people, and you drag it and can trip very often. Like potentially they would need something like that, and this technology that we developed for Rewalk can help address that issue.
Yep.
Although that's for clinic, not so much at home use yet. So I think it's possible, but it would kind of depend on like what the person has that's kind of like the underlying issue.
Well, let's also talk about, now you have a fashion background.
Yeah.
And then kind of like are working on like the cool kind of like tech side with like different engineers and different kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Multidisciplinary sort of project. Okay, but let's talk about the tech and wearables and kind of where that field is. It was super hot, I guess, like 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of stuff came out and some stuck, a lot didn't. Okay, let's talk about like Apple Watch. Okay, Apple. I was giving my spiel a little before the show.
Yeah.
And I'm very forward about it. I've mentioned it on the air before. Is that smartwatches I think are cool for like notifications and stuff like that. I think that's a cool application to have to let you know like, oh, someone mentioned me in a tweet, or I just got an email. But not for like $400, $500. I think that's bad. But let's just, from the fashion sense, do you like the way that Apple did it? That you can, they really just designed the nugget in the middle, and it lets you kind of customize the different bands. Do you think they did it right from a fashion tech point of view?
I do think Apple's capability to captivate their audience is really admirable. I don't think I could use an Apple Watch because I would find it distracting, but I do think from a fashion perspective, I think that people are really obsessed kind of with customization, so I think they've done a good job there.
Yeah.
In terms of tech, I definitely understand people who have it when
they love it.
I know, I'm usually like, why'd you get that? And then they
yeah.
explain it, and I'm like, I could see it,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So I think they did it right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And you're rocking the Fitbit.
I am.
Yeah. Just a minimalist, they're not bad.
Yeah.
From a design point of view.
I do love it. I never take it off, actually.
Yeah.
I never thought
yeah.
I'd be that person, but it tells me how I sleep.
Yeah, okay,
so
yeah,
that's
yeah,
cool.
of course, yeah. Now, who do you think's done it right with in the wave of wearables? Did you like Ringley, if you remember them? Or who's done it right, who's done it wrong?
Yeah. Well, I think like we were saying before, it's really funny because I wasn't totally sure how things like this would catch on.
Yeah.
But I do think Misfit as well has done a great job.
Beautiful, yeah.
Mainly because they've really thought about, people want something integrated into something they're going to already wear every day.
Right.
And I think that's kind of the future of this field is like more low profile. You're not going to see it. Mm-hmm. It's going to be more efficient. It's going to be more accurate. Mm-hmm. So Misfit, I think, got it right in terms of even with the one I have with Fitbit, there's a little pod in here you can put into jewelry.
Right.
So I think it's definitely moving in the right direction.
Very cool. Okay, so we're going to move on to our lightning round. This is the same 10 questions we ask all our people.
Yeah.
If any questions come up, Pete, just let me know. Come on, iPad. There we go. Okay, so first question, and I bet you I know the answer to these first two questions. Gonna guess. Do you use Windows or Mac?
Oh, I use Mac.
Okay.
Not surprising.
Are you Android or iOS? You're iOS.
iOS, yeah.
I just had to guess. From the design field. Okay, yeah. Okay, have you recently come across a piece of technology that made you think, wow, I'm really living in the future?
Well, Well, I did actually. I was reading about, I can't remember the name of the group doing it at MIT because they do so much cool stuff.
Yeah.
But tattoos that now can tell
Yes.
people
Like their emotional
different
state? Yeah, or...
like.
Oh, right.
So for people with like diabetes, like
Right,
a tattoo
yeah.
could tell you like,
Yeah.
your blood sugar's low. So
Yeah.
that kind of thing, I was like, whoa.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
very cool. Facebook, you have a question.
Nike or Adidas?
Okay. Can you say that? Are you going to hurt feelings?
I mean, I don't think I'll hurt any feelings.
Yeah.
I have to say Adidas,
Okay.
only because I worked at Reebok and they're owned by Adidas, and I do have lots of,
Yeah.
connection. I feel very connected to that world and that community. So
Yeah.
nothing. I still like Nike too, but
Yeah.
Adidas.
Did you have another question, Pete?
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, no, okay. When you're waiting in line at the store, what is the first app you open to pass the time?
Ooh,
On your iPhone.
I hate to say it, but Instagram.
Sure, of course. It's great.
It's just very visual. And
Yeah. It's there. You can stalk friends and celebrities. What's
yeah, I
better
felt
than
like
that?
I needed
Yeah.
to say something like nerdy and smart, but
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Man, we love it. Ed Snowden, traitor or hero?
Ooh,
If you don't have a strong opinion, we
I don't
can
have a
use that
strong
one. Okay. Will the singularity occur in 2054?
sure.
Okay. Is there intelligent life out there in the universe?
I personally think there is
Yeah.
probably. Yeah, especially given all these like planets we're finding. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is Bigfoot out there stomping around?
I had a professor in high school who thought so.
Okay.
So, yes.
So you go with yes? Okay. What is your go-to drink at the bar?
Probably, I usually drink champagne.
Okay. Fancy.
Yeah.
Okay. We're in the golden age of television. What are you watching these days?
Oh, I just got finished watching Big Little Lies,
Okay.
which
People love it.
Reese Witherspoon
Sure,
is like
yeah.
just awesome.
Yeah.
It was really great. Yeah.
Yep. Facebook, you have a last question.
What suit component are you most proud of?
Oh, that's a great question. I think while the ones I did bring, the calf wrap and the strap look really cool, probably the base layer, mainly because I kind of knew it would be a big challenge, and initially when I was trying to integrate kind of a high friction material, I feel like a lot of people were kind of like, is it going to work? That
Yeah.
sounds really hard. And,
Yeah.
I just kind of pushed through and made it happen. And I think because that design worked out, the suit functions way better now. So, yeah.
All right, very cool. Well, Dani Ryan, thank you so much for coming in. This has been amazing. For everyone, thank you for participating at home. Thank you to Social Pete. Thank you to cameraman Emmett. Thank you to Jose doing photos over there. And as always, if this is your first time watching, give us a like, give us a share. We appreciate those. Watch some of our past episodes. We've done a lot of these. We are an audio podcast available on all the places. So give us a like, give us a review. We appreciate those. Thanks to everyone. And as always, be good to each other. Peace. Hear that, DARPA? Peace.